On the coldest morning of the year, as the sun struggled to pierce the gray clouds, Ethan Walker, a weary single father, pushed open the door of his usual corner cafe. Life had been harsh. Juggling 2 part-time jobs and raising his daughter Lily alone left him exhausted. Every morning, he visited the cafe, seeking a brief pause before the day swallowed him whole. That morning, however, something froze him in his tracks. Near the window, a young woman sat alone. Her clothes were soaked from the rain, her body trembling, and her hands clutched her stomach as if hunger had hollowed her from the inside out. Ethan could feel it instinctively. Something about her pain reflected the hardest nights of his own life. Without thinking, he approached her and offered a simple plate of toast, the same breakfast he bought every morning because it was cheap, warm, and reliable. The woman stared at him, wide-eyed at first, then confused, and finally a fragile gratitude that made his chest tighten. "My name is Clara Hayes," she whispered, her voice polite but fragile, as though apologizing for even existing. She didn't explain why she was soaked, or why her hands shook when holding the bread, or why her eyes carried invisible scars of suffering. She only said one word, "Thank you." From that day onward, Ethan began seeing Clara every morning. Always the same table by the window, always cold, always quiet, always staring at the wet streets, seemingly waiting for someone who never arrived. And every morning, Ethan brought a little extra for her, an extra sandwich, a second cup of tea, pretending he had ordered too much. Clara never asked for help, nor did she refuse it. She ate with quiet desperation, as if she had spent far too long pretending she didn't need saving. Ethan didn't have much. He barely had enough for himself and Lily. But kindness cost nothing, and helping Clara felt more natural than ignoring her suffering. Weeks passed, and Ethan noticed small things about her. How she wore the same clothes day after day. How she flinched at sudden noises. How tears sometimes streaked her cheeks overnight. How she had bruises she had clearly tried to conceal. And yet, she always returned to that same chair, as if it were the only place that felt safe. Ethan never pried. He simply made sure she ate, warmed her hands with tea, and left the cafe with at least a little strength to face another day. He didn't know her story, but he recognized pain when he saw it. He had lived through nights when Lily cried from hunger because his paycheck was late. He had survived the weight of a world that often felt too heavy for one person to carry. One rainy morning, Clara looked worse than ever. Her eyes were swollen. Her fingers shook as she clutched a cup of tea Ethan had placed in her hands. She whispered that she didn't deserve kindness. Ethan, with quiet compassion, told her, "Everyone deserves at least one person who cares." She didn't respond, but tears streamed down her cheeks. Ethan pretended not to see, giving her the space to grieve silently. Days turned into weeks, and their strange routine formed a quiet bond. 2 broken souls meeting in the same corner of the world, finding warmth in small acts of compassion. Then, one morning, Clara didn't show up. Ethan waited, checking the door every few minutes, his stomach twisting with worry. She didn't come the next day, nor the one after. He feared something terrible had happened. 3 days later, just when he had nearly convinced himself she wouldn't return, the cafe door burst open. 2 large men in suits entered first, scanning the room like bodyguards. Behind them walked 2 sharply dressed lawyers carrying heavy files. And between them, stepping cautiously but with an air of fragile strength, was Clara. Clean clothes, brushed hair, and a newfound glow of hope. The cafe fell silent. The lead lawyer stepped forward, introducing himself formally. Clara stood behind, tears glistening in her eyes. She had been missing for months, escaping an abusive fiancé who controlled her life, money, and movements. She had lived in hiding, terrified, starving, and ashamed to ask for help, until she met Ethan. Every morning, he had fed her without expecting anything in return. Every small act of compassion had protected her dignity. Every moment he treated her like a human being reminded her that she was worth more than the pain she had endured. Her family wanted to thank him personally. Clara stepped forward, her voice trembling. "You saved my life. Every morning, I had the strength to keep going because of you. You didn't ask for anything, yet you made me feel seen. You reminded me I mattered." Ethan was stunned. He had never imagined Clara came from a life of wealth and influence. To him, she had been just a woman in need. Nothing more, nothing less. The lawyers explained that her mother, a powerful businesswoman, wanted to help Ethan and Lily. They offered to cover his debts, provide safe housing, and support Lily's schooling. Overwhelmed, Ethan initially refused, but Clara placed a hand over his and whispered softly, "Sometimes accepting help is also an act of courage." Their worlds were different, but gratitude recognized no status. From that day forward, Clara returned often to the cafe, no longer fearful. She became a friend to Lily, a comforting presence in their home, and a living reminder that even the smallest act of kindness could alter the course of someone's life. Ethan, once drowning in the struggles of life, finally felt a sense of relief. He was no longer alone. Clara healed slowly, her laughter returning, her presence brightening their modest home. And it all began with one simple meal, offered without expectation, one act of compassion that changed the lives of two strangers forever. This story reminds us that kindness can create miracles, that even the smallest gestures, sharing food, offering warmth, showing understanding, can ripple through someone's world and transform it completely. And sometimes, the people we save aren't just strangers. They become family, friends, and the living proof that humanity is never truly lost.